Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Peter Llewellyn. I run the services at MedComms which are trying to provide services, activities, trying to encourage networking, trying to encourage information sharing amongst the global community in MedComms, by which I mean medical communications, medical education, medical publishing. So anyone who works in or indeed around MedComms, or indeed people who want to come and join MedComms and are interested in what we do, are welcome, and you will find lots of information at medcommsnetworking.com. What we're doing at the moment with these Zoom meetings is it's a great way of reaching out to many more people all over the world for an hour or so, and it also allows us to capture a video which we will then hopefully be putting on NetworkPharma TV later. If you've not seen that, you'll find more than 200 videos now. It's becoming quite a useful collection of good content relevant to MedComms and indeed beyond. So today, I'm absolutely delighted that we've got Jenny and we've got Jay, who are going to talk to us about strategic account management, or strategic thinking for account managers. And I'm going to stop wittering now. I'm going to hand over to Jenny to lead us with the presentation. So over to you, Jenny.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to you, Peter, for inviting us here to talk to you today. And for those that are joining us live, thank you for taking the time out of your day. We hope that this is going to be useful. Personally, I'm really excited about talking about strategic thinking for agency account managers, because in my line of work, I talk to a lot of agency account managers who feel a bit frustrated that they want to progress in their career, but they feel they have to be more strategic. But partly they're frustrated because they have this dual role of managing projects, so they're project managing. But on the other side, they're also trying to develop the client relationship, think more strategically to add value to the client's business, think about the client's communications challenge. And so they have this frustration in this pull. But what is strategy, and how can you make sure that strategy is infused with everything that you're doing, whether it's a pitch scenario, which many people think that's the only time that you can apply your strategic thinking, or in your day-to-day life managing those projects. A quick intro from me. My name is Jenny Plant. I run account management skills training. I'm ex-Publicis Life Brands General Manager, been in healthcare communications for many years, and also I deliver courses for the Pharmaceutical Marketing Society. My colleague Jay also helps me with account management skills. She's both a trainer and a certified coach. Her background is many years in medical communications, agencies like Ogilvy and CDM, but also, interestingly, she ran her own strategic consultancy, specifically in healthcare communications, for 7 years. So she's very, very familiar with the types of business challenges that clients tend to typically come to us with. So I'm very aware that we probably have lots of different types of agencies on here today. Within medical communications itself, there are lots of different disciplines, but hopefully what we're going to share with you today is going to be relevant in some way, shape or form, depending on your type of agency. So where can we actually apply our strategic thinking? Well, inevitably, we have the pitching scenario where clients tend to share with us their business objective, their communications challenge, a lot about where they're at in terms of this problem they need solving. And we get a chance then to really flex our strategic thinking muscles. But also there's other opportunities. Once we have that client on board and we've been working with them for a while, they might come to us with another project that they need to do. And we have another opportunity to stand back, look at the bigger picture, and really come to them with some new thinking and thinking bigger picture. Another opportunity is where we want to maintain that client relationship for the longer term. So we want to continually surprise them proactively with new ideas and new thinking. So that's another opportunity for account managers to think more strategically. Similarly, when many agencies that I know and I work with conduct quarterly value reviews or quarterly business reviews or strategic workshops. And these are opportunities to say, we're working with this client for a year. Where are they in terms of what they want to achieve strategically for their brand, for their product, and we work together with the client in a room, and we're all given the opportunity to contribute. So again, if you're an agency account manager, you want to shine in those opportunities. You want to really have a good understanding of the business problem, the business challenge, and a bit more about the issue that you're solving. And then finally, fortunately for many of us, we are also given the opportunity to be invited in to the clients' meetings, so their annual planning meetings. Perhaps they're developing their brand plan or their operational plan. So again, we're going to be there sitting with the client alongside them, and we don't want to be the person that's taking notes. We want to be contributing, because we have a lot of experience to share. We work with lots of different types of clients, so we have a really good opportunity there to contribute to the thinking. So this is kind of a range of opportunities. So I'm going to hand over to Jay now, who's going to talk about what is strategic thinking and why is it different to strategic planning.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you very much. So yeah, hi everyone. I have an account handling background, and it became more and more strategic with time. And I ran my own agency. I've been running my own agency for about now 7-8 years. And we purposefully focused on the strategic consultancy side of things. So, and then when I became trainer and coach, it's mostly I train on strategic thinking. And this is one thing that I really notice is that people really get confused about what is strategic thinking versus strategic planning. And there are a lot of training out there that are doing strategic planning training, which is different. So let's clarify this. What is really strategic thinking? So to me, strategic thinking is a skill. It's a skill that you can develop and improve and leverage. Process. It has to be conducted, and it has to fit in certain kind of milestones. So is everyone hearing me?
We can hear you now, Jay.
Okay, great, perfect, sorry. So while thinking in certain manner can be a natural or nurtured attribute, the planning strategically, it's a process that drives results or needs tactical actions to be defined within its framework. The purpose of strategic thinking is to enable, and why I'm passionate about training people on strategic thinking, it's because it gives you the power to envision different scenarios from different perspectives. And then this gives you the power of coming up with propositions or different ways of doing things in a more efficient way. So if someone asked me, okay, can you please cut this whole thing to one word? I would say strategic thinking is a way to become curious about your client's problem. And Jenny covered a lot, where do we use strategic training? I would say strategic training is a muscle, and more you use it, more you become savvy and really kind of enabled with it. But for the purpose of this 20 minutes that we have, 25 minutes that we have, we will definitely focus on the main part where the strategic thinking comes really handy, is the big project brief or pitch brief that agencies in the MedComms arena get with their clients. So can we have the next slide, Jenny? Thank you. So one thing that, because we are in the account management skills, I just wanted to be, and we have been dealing with lots of account handlers who are saying they want to become more strategic, but they're struggling. I just wanted to put out there a little kind of diagnosis of what happens when strategic thinking comes into the discussion with your clients. So what happens from an account handling point of view? Next slide, Jenny. So here is a little kind of polarization, of course. We're going to push it through. So typically, if you are in a scenario where the client is not thinking that you're a strategic ally, they will come to you saying that they want this project to be done. So they have self-diagnosed themselves and they have self-prescribed a product, okay? So which can be anything between an ad campaign to a publication plan. So they come to you and they say, here is what I want you to do. And the conversation after that goes into how much will it cost, what are the timelines and the details of the project. On the other hand, when you are in a strategic ally relationship with a client, the easiest way to understand that, the client comes to you with the problem and they go, here's my problem, how can we solve it? And you do have that kind of connection with the client where you build the solution finding process together. And this conversation is much more value-based, and you talk about market, sales, customer experiences, etc. So it's really a higher level communication versus the classical project-based communication. So next slide, thank you. So with this little time that is in our hands, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you 3 thinking mechanisms of the client problems, okay? And this goes with what is the thinking hat that we need to put on, what is the thinking process that we need to follow, and those are all in the MedComms arena, and what are the thinking questions that can actually help us to complement this conversation with the client. So which hat do we need to put on? So if you look at it, typically an account handler will be what I would call the guardian of the agency. They will have a pretty strong agency hat and to meet the timelines, be on the brief, okay? And when the brief comes, it's really difficult for them to get out of that hat. And they take the brief, they kind of transform it into an internal brief, and then they, launch the process. What we're saying here is, if you're thinking strategically, you got to put the agency hat aside. Now, you're in the room with your client. So what I would suggest is you don't need to put the client's hat either, because they already have their hat on and they are already bringing their vision on the table, their way of looking at it and point of view. So we don't need to think like them. Who is missing is actually what I would call end customer. And this is actually across the all sectors that you can think of. But for our purpose, is end customer means HCPs, patients, or other stakeholders, right? So being able to put the hat of the end customer on is what will give you the power to bring the discussion to the strategic level. So here's a little example for you. I used to work, just a second, Jenny. Yeah,
oh, sorry.
No worries. I used to work in France, and we used to work for this antiretroviral brand for HIV. And the client came to us and they said, you know, we want to do this campaign for International Women's Day, and we would like to do this campaign, and we have 80,000 budget. And there we could have our agency hat on, grab the 80,000 and develop a beautiful campaign, and be happy. They would be happy, and it would be quite seamless and an easy process to execute. Now, we had a more strategic hat on, and we said, okay, why are you doing this campaign? So is it a pure share of voice and marketing, or are there any other issues? And then this really insightful discussion with the client came up, and we understood that actually they were seeing in France back then, there was a big immigration from South Africa, and they were seeing increase of HIV patients, especially within women and within pregnant women. So they were saying that in the women health centers in France, they were seeing this increase of HIV patients, and they just wanted to increase the awareness amongst the patients and amongst the doctors, HCPs, to scan more and to treat more. So this kind of turned into a much bigger problem than I want to raise my voice and be the person who talks about women and HIV during the International Women's Day arena. Then what happened was the whole campaign got transformed, and we started to run advisory boards. There was a med-ed component, there was a PR component, there was an ad component and MedComms component within the whole thing. And the £80,000 budget became 400,000, euros back then, 400,000 within 6 months. So this kind of approach, just asking the right questions with the client, actually not only will help the client and will help the patients and doctors, but also will definitely open up a lot of opportunities for the agency as well. So again, in the same scenario, what happened was down the line when we proposed our campaign, etc., the client was very keen to develop a patient campaign based on leaflets and patient materials that would be available at the Women's Health Center. And we just got, again, curious and put the end customer's head on, and we said, hang on a second, are we really sure that these women are able to read properly French in those leaflets and understand and actually adhere to the message? Then the client was not that aware of the situation and started to question some doctors in the Women Health Center, doctors and nurses, and it came that actually they really struggled with this problem of educating these patients. So our leaflet and patient material campaign became something completely different, and we actually hired artists who were designing products, illustrations for this campaign. So these are really small examples that I can give to you on the benefit of putting that hat on and having the strategic conversation and turning the project-based conversation into a problem conversation. So next, if you, Jenny, any questions, anything to add?
Can I just say that I think it's really, really key. What you've just described is so typical. I think for me, what's really important here is asking, why are we actually doing it? So when the client comes to you with a brief and they're and like you said in the previous scenario, they usually say, right, here's the brief, tell me how much it's going to cost. They've already done the thinking internally. Where we can add the most value is entering in that conversation before they've written the brief, so that we understand that we're solving the right problem. And I love how you explained so eloquently about this example, which I think is so pertinent, even down to how are we going to make sure that the messages resonate with the end user, and changing the language from a language they didn't understand to more illustrative, so they could actually understand the message. So I think it's a brilliant example. And also, I mean, let's not make any bones about it. That's a financial benefit as well for the agency. They've just grown that account. So it's a win-win. The client wins because they're solving the right problem. The patient wins because they're getting the right message at the right time. And the agency wins because they're adding the most value that they can. They're seen differently, and they've grown that account. So I think it's a great example.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, definitely. I do believe that strategic thinking is not just a career goal with no end. It brings a lot of assets to the person who's able to perform it, and of course to the agency.
Mm.
So next slide will give you a little bit of an understanding of what is the actually thinking process that we can have within the healthcare industry. So this goes with 5 steps. And what I would say is, so we are in the problem arena, but hang on a second, we're not in the problem of our client. We're in the problem arena of their clients, okay? We're still having our end consumer hat on, so either patient or the HCP. So within that vision, we will look at this problem this way. So first of all, how many people are concerned about this problem? So is it a current hot topic like, well, we are all in it, coronavirus, or is it an ongoing problem like diabetes or cancer? Does it have social ramifications? In the case of HIV, we had really big social ramifications because it was related to immigration. It was related to women who were suffering from some lack of equality, etc. So it had really big social ramifications, which really impacted the way we had to run the campaign and the way we had to actually train and educate also the HCPs around it. Is it a big social problem, for example? So then once you have that understanding, it will really help you to help your client have a way of approaching this differently. Then we need to look at it as what is the trend? So is it a growing health issue or is it a declining health issue? Is it a status quo? So it's like obesity or cancer. General health trends right now, we all know, are moving towards prevention. So it's especially on the now Western city world, it's less medication is best medication is kind of like the way we are going. So does this apply to the problem that you are solving? So let's say you're in the diabetes arena. You just asking to your clients something around what is the prevention marketing policy that you have around diabetes, because diabetes type 2 can be prevented. How your position as a brand, as a company, will open up a lot of discussion that can actually help you see the opportunities for the agency. Then there is the idea of the urgency. So how urgent is to solve this specific health problem? Is it a real health economics concern? So is it about saving lives or is it about improving quality of life? In my HIV case, it was extremely urgent because babies were starting to born with HIV and they had to actually do something. And coming at it from an IWD International Women's Day event was going to make it so small they wouldn't have any impact. So you need to see this kind of like, what is the impact of this problem to the society and the urgency of it? Then what is the cost? Probably this is, I used to hear this all the time as well. This is probably the main thing that you keep hearing, how much the solution that the client, so your client, offers to the healthcare world is actually a health economic benefit. So this access question is one of the biggest ones. And to be honest, I'm not an access expert and it is a very complicated domain, but as an account handler or agency lead, you gotta empower your teams who are going to face the clients with a certain understanding, a mindset of access and the implications of that to your clients' lives, so that you know how much room they have to navigate around. Or for example, I had led a campaign where we had to turn the access problem through providing more services because the brand was not actually bringing a lot of health economic benefits. And that was again a very strategic communication which helped agency to create much more value for the client. And then finally, the frequency of that problem in terms of chronicity and periodicity of the problem will give you again a vision of that health issue and bring you to the level of strategic communication with your client. So if there's not anything that you would want to add, Jenny, I would move to the next slide. So here are 10 questions. Take it as a present from me. I call them thinking questions with the customer hats on. These are the questions that you would be able to use in any actually brief situation to bring the discussion from solution focused to problem focused. So a few that I'm going to give, I'm not going to read all of them, you can read them, but a few that I would give to you is, for example, what would you say were the major challenges regarding treatment, disease, or patient management? Gives you an understanding of, one, how your client is viewing the whole healthcare issue, but also their understanding of it. So, or something around how are you helping them to achieve their goals? So how are you helping doctors, HCPs, to achieve their goals? What are their goals that you consider as being a goal? And how are you helping them? Gives you an understanding of how they do position themselves. What impact the current message that you are giving, creating on the others? And in your opinion, what is missing? And finally, probably what I would really recommend is, what do you think they talk about you to their colleagues? So it's about you asking to your clients, what do you think your clients, HCPs, are saying about you? And these are, again, gives you many perspectives on how do they think, what is the problem, and if you do a little bit more deeper research on the market, what are the gaps between their thinking and the reality of things? So coming towards the end, so we have covered this thinking mechanism of the problem. I would say this is kind of like a way of leading the conversation with your client, and a way of approaching their brand completely differently than what we tend to do when we are in the midst of the day-to-day management of the client. The next slide, please, Jenny. So we do run with Jenny a day strategic thinking workshops based on our model called a set, and this is not about strategic planning. This is about giving people tools like I've been giving here, like certain questions that will allow them to lead the conversation towards a more strategic conversation, or a way of looking at a brief, a way of writing a brief. So these are really actually habits and skills to develop kind of workshop that we give, specifically designed for account managers who are facing the client. And the aim of this is really to empower them with these skills that will actually create value for the agency's clients. So I just covered a little bit of it right now. It's a day workshop. I hope you understand that we cannot cover all of it, but if you have any questions, you can, one, contact us, two, please shoot them right now, and I would be happy to answer them. Unless, Jenny, if you have anything to add to this.
No, I think you've really explained it really, really well. I think, I'm just going to reiterate the same thing. Strategic thinking is a muscle, it's a behavior, it's how you show up every day with your client. And I think sometimes many account managers are bogged down by the day-to-day volume of projects that they just have to get done and deliver. But in those moments where you do have the opportunity to be in front of your client and shine, how do you approach it? How do you show up? Adding value, asking the right questions, using the right mental thinking models. And I'm really excited about running this workshop with you, Jay, because I think it's really needed right now in the market. I think those agency account managers that take advantage of this are really going to sort of accelerate their career and look different in front of the client. So yeah, really exciting, and I'd love to get some questions. And I just want to put up my contact details at the end, just as a holding slide.
Brilliant, thanks, Jen. I was going to say, let me just put in there, if you could just lose the slides, that'd be great. But thank you very much, Jay, for a very comprehensive presentation there. What I'm keen to invite the audience who are online at the moment to send in their comments and their observations and their questions. So just a very quick reminder: at the bottom of your window, you have a chat button and a Q&A button. They'll both pull up text boxes and use them to send the questions in. We'll all see those from here. So this is supposed to be led by you guys. So please do ask your questions. Can I ask? I don't know whether I'm asking one of my stupid questions or not, but this. I mean, this stuff all sounds great, and I just wonder how much kickback. We're very much focused on talking to the account management types within the agency, supporting their clients and so on. How much kickback do you think you get in practice? I can certainly think of clients who don't want you to get involved in the strategy. They just want you to do as you're flipping well told sort of thing and just get the project out sort of thing. And I just wonder, how much kickback happens in reality? How much of that is just down to the individual? How much of it is the client is like that? How much time needs to be spent on, if you like, the client side, helping them understand that this is a helpful thing, not a hindrance? Can you talk around that a little bit in your experience, guys?
Sure. Shall I go, Jenny, or
you go first? I've got something to add.
Yeah. So what I would say, again, let's put our client's hat on and look at it from a problem point of view. The thing is, clients need strategic thinking help, and they have budget for that. And it's going to be either you doing it for them or someone else doing it for them. And it's to us, to the agencies, to prove that we are fit for the purpose. I have pitched against very strategic, considerate people like McKinsey, and I won the pitch. So I do believe that it's a way of looking at it and investing in it. It's not going to happen in one go, but once a client actually sees you as a strategic partner, then you actually have your word in it, so and your power in it. I would say that way. Yeah.
Okay, Jen, I think you had some words to say on that one.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good question, actually, Peter, because you're right. Some clients, it feels like they just won't let you in. They won't share with you their brand plan, their business objectives, their challenges. But it's a bit of chicken and egg, because if you are not showing up and behaving like you can add value, and you are worthy to bring into their inner sanctum and to understand their strategy so that you can really behave like a partner, then it's kind of, they're not going to invite you. So it is a bit of chicken and egg. And I think from the outset, you need to show up and demonstrate that you can add value. And this is a lot of confidence building for account managers for lots of different reasons, which we don't have time to cover. But account managers show up in meetings and they're not their best selves. You know, they don't feel prepared. They haven't pre-rehearsed. They haven't pre-planned. There hasn't been any kind of strategic thinking about how we are going to actually manage the relationship or grow this account. And I just think a lot of it is about stepping back and realignment. I agree that it happens, but I think once the client sees that you can offer some valuable thinking, but you've got to do it from the outset of the relationship. And
it's building that relationship and so on. But one of my observations, I suppose, over the years has been, which I find intriguing, is I've seen very strategic agencies, consultancies, doing strategic thinking and then thinking, well, we can also publish the book or do the event, or so they're the strategists who then think, oh well, we can do all that other stuff as well. And the flip side are the people who maybe are coming out from the project side, saying we can do the strategic thinking. And it's interesting. I mean, no one sits in one side or the other, and it's all about individuals and their individual clients. But I do think that there is an interesting sort of difference there, and it's interesting to see that dynamic going on. Certainly it's interesting as an observer when you see that happening.
What's happening in the market right now, Peter, I'm really glad you brought this up, is companies and management consultancy firms like Accenture, for example. Accenture has been so acquisitive over the last couple of years. They've been buying up communications agencies. Now, once they've got them under their own umbrella, and Accenture has made some massive acquisitions over the last couple of years, really high profile agencies. So it's only a matter of time before they fuse their ability to to think strategically, their ability to access the C-suite, the CEO, CFO, and have a place at the table with their delivery. So I just think it's a good behavior to show up with and have a skill to learn. But also, I understand also, on the other hand, some agencies don't really want to get involved in the strategy. They're very comfortable with delivery. So it's not for everybody. It's only for those agencies where they see it's an opportunity. They see they might be missing out on opportunities by not turning up and thinking strategically and offering that value, because they are leaving money on the table.
Yeah. And I think it's really important what you said, Jenny. It's not for every business model. It's not for every theme. But if I do believe that still the muscle will help you always. That kind of the habit of asking the right questions. Basically, that's about it. Asking the right questions and making the right connections will help you even on a project level. And the leaflet project that I was talking about was a project, and just the strategic way of thinking that changed everything.
For me, that's the key point. And we can go too far with example or suggesting as an example of this or that. And there's always pluses and minuses, but it's that sort of if you can get someone to be strategically thinking without thinking about it, then they ought to be more effective. And if there's a client who says, back off, you can still back off. Whereas if another client says, come on, but it's getting the account managers or account management types to think in that way to begin with, which I can see lots of obvious benefit. And I'm sure, and as you say, that there's a danger that in many agencies, in many situations, all of us are in situations where we're just dealing with stuff. And we're not sitting back and thinking a little bit. And if you practice at thinking a bit, it becomes a sort of an unconscious thought sort of thing. Yeah.
The highest level of value we can bring to clients,
yeah, definitely. You're so right.
Telling them things that they don't already know as well. So it's not just about what I'm excited about the course for. It's not just asking the right questions, but also using the right mental models and also going to the right resources to get some external perspective, as well as asking the client from their perspective. So really, it's that kind of behavior where we're doing this and we know we need to do it. Some people come to me and say, where do I even start? So it is a good starting point.
Yeah.
I think having said that, if I may, then just be slightly provocative and go, wherever you are on that spectrum, if you're basically, more at the delivery end, but you're excited about and you've been trained to think strategically and you're becoming involved strategically, there's a commercial issue there in terms of how far you go with that unless you're being paid in order to provide that service. So you can get very sucked into a project, which is, I don't know, it's about producing a book or whatever example you want to use, but actually you spend most of your time getting very excited about the strategy and all the rest of it, and the client's going, thank you very much, this is all. And so from an agency point of view, I think, again, an account manager in an agency has to have that agency hat on that is saying this is still got to be a sensible way of approaching this project, because otherwise it sort of doesn't work.
This is another great point, because many agencies that I'm working with are non-healthcare. And typically when I work with an agency, they separate the role from project manager to account manager. Project managers are just about getting things done on time, on budget, all the estimates, and making sure it happens. Very internal focus. Account management traditionally is about developing the client relationship, understanding the client's challenge, understanding the client's business from their perspective, seeing the world through their eyes, and really developing that relationship and that account. So unfortunately for many people in this dual role, they get sucked in. So if they have a natural tendency towards strategic thinking, or they want to do that more, it can be quite frustrating. So it is about agency model and the way you set that up.
Yeah. Jay, you look like you were going to say something there.
No, I think Jenny covered everything. It's also we need to look at it. I mean, this is why I wanted to separate strategic thinking and planning. Planning is a process that takes a lot of time. Strategic thinking is really a muscle, and it gets better and better by doing it. So even at the delivery end, when you have that muscle well trained, actually it just takes you a tiny second of asking a question, the right question, and the right way of having the right mental model and associations to be able to say, how about this?
I have got one eye on the clock, but I just think Catherine's point maybe is interesting just to look at slightly. And in particular, the idea that very often, I don't know, but certainly often, you as the account manager, say within an agency, know far more than your client, because they've just been promoted into that role from the field force or whatever it is. And that it brings itself a whole load of quite interesting dynamics and conflict and relationship type issues and so on. Yeah. Which I think is possibly what she's getting at there. And how do you manage that, and how do you help that situation without causing a problem, sort of thing?
Can you see the question, Jay?
I can see it, yes. So what I understand is from the question, if I'm not mistaken, is when you're in front of an inexperienced client, you already bring a value. How do you add more value with the strategic thinking? Am I kind of interpreting?
I think so,
right?
but I'm looking at it slightly in terms of managing the relationship as well. You've got the inexperienced client and you're coming in strategically thinking. There's an issue there in terms of you just knowing more than them in the first place. And it's just that delicate sort of management of that situation. Maybe coming back to my original point, they're more the sort of person who's going to kick back and go, no, I don't need this, because it's a confidence thing on the side of the client as well, isn't it?
So I think Jenny is the right person to answer in terms of managing the relationship at that moment, I guess.
I think it's a really good question, Catherine, because this is the reality of it. You have a client that you're dealing with typically on a day-to-day basis who is inexperienced. So yes, you as a more experienced person can really, really help support and put the client's hat on for them. Or at least uncover the right information that you need from the client by asking the right question. The other thing I'd say, which hopefully helps, is I think we have a lot of healthcare communications agencies. Some are very small and some are very big. But generally speaking, you want to, for every client, have as many different level relationships at different levels in the client organization as well. So if you're the managing director, then you want to have several advocates at the client side at your level who you can have a different type of conversation with. And then the more junior people on the client side are married with the more junior at the agency side. I know it's really difficult sometimes if you've got a very small agency, but typically you want to have several contacts and several relationships that you're nurturing at the client side, so that when you do have a client who's your day-to-day contact that doesn't really know much or could, benefit from more learnings, and you have more experience, you don't end up hitting a wall, and you can actually go higher in the organization to have more of a bigger picture discussion. So when I work with agencies, I always try to encourage them as far as you can, for the client services director, the managing director, whoever you've got more senior, to also be nurturing that client relationship and establishing relationships where they don't exist.
Excellent. Okay, look, guys, I'm sorry, we are a little bit over the time, so I'm gonna call a halt to the recorded part of this session, if you don't mind. To everybody online, please stick around. We can carry on talking to the top of the hour. That's not the problem. But just for now, I'd like to say a huge thanks to both Jay and Jenny. Anybody who is either online or indeed watching the video, which will be up later on NetworkPharma TV, if you'd like to make contact with Jay and Jenny, LinkedIn is the obvious, easy way of doing that, so they'll be very happy to hear from you. If you're interested in what's happening in MedComms, hopefully medcommsnetworking.com provides you with a few clues. It'll certainly tell you what else we're doing in terms of these activities and webinars and so on and so forth. So if we can help, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks very much for listening to this session. And as I always do now, just ask everybody to give a little wave and say bye-bye as we stop the recording. So thank you very much.